Allies, enemies, and those yet unaligned, howdy and welcome to another episode of Metamour Than You Bargained for. I am your host, Lynn Lawless. On this show, we read stories from around the internet and give our questionable advice. The twist is, everything's going to revolve around non-monogamy in some way, shape, or form. Joining me on the mic today, we have Will, who is a trauma-informed, licensed, independent clinical social worker in the state of Massachusetts. Will, tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you. So my name's Will. I'm someone who practices ethical non-monogamy, have been for a hot minute. I'm also a trauma therapist and a social worker and do a lot of work with poly folks, or as much as I can given community mental health, coming in from a few different angles.
All of the angles that give you the fancy letters after your name.
I do. I get the fancy letters. They're all... Massachusetts has LCSW and LI, so I'm going for the independent license soon, but I think it's a week.
See, the real gay agenda is for no one to notice all the letters that we are using because there's already so many letters.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just going to LGBTQIA, LICSW. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm a college dropout making a podcast in my teeny tiny apartment with no letters after my name. But you know what? That don't matter worth shit. My opinions are awful, and that's what makes it interesting. Without further ado, let's launch right into this tea party.
Let's do it.
Meta. Metamour Mental Health is the title of this post. I'm looking for advice or support from anyone who has experienced a metamour with poor mental health. My partner and I have been in the process of getting back together after a break surrounding a death in the wife's family, and they are all new to poly and not knowing how to navigate that well. Over the last 6 weeks, we have put a lot of work into trying to find a way back to the two of us dating. However, the previous 2 weeks have been really volatile. They just realized that the wife's psych medications were not correct. It seems that she has been stabilized a bit by getting it correct, but they will need to be finding her some new medications. I should say that during our break and since then, she has continued to see her other partner while frequently wavering in her commitment to my partner being polyamorous and asking us to scale back. Yeah.
Her commitment to their poly... Okay, carry on.
Yeah, asking us to scale back from where we were before the break and move slower. For example, no overnights for a few weeks. All right. And, you know, there's some flags. There's some flags popping up.
Oh, absolutely. We're getting into the festival. Some flags afoot.
My partner is working very hard to make this work for everyone and trying to make sure he stays in touch with his needs and her needs and build back my need for trust and safety in the situation. But again, it feels very volatile, as if I have no idea where she's going to be each day and how it will impact my relationship.
That's a flag.
Yeah. How is she impacting your relationship? This is already sounding like some Hinge problems, but let's keep going.
Yeah.
I've asked to no longer receive day-to-day updates on the situation, but even just yesterday he was over and everything was fine until she finished her date and started blowing up his phone about their plans for afterwards. Usually it wouldn't be a big deal for me, but it was really hard because it was the first time we'd been able to be intimate in 3 months. Oof. It was going to be a difficult goodbye since he couldn't stay over, and the last 2-3 times I said goodbye to him, it was met by chaos in the ensuing days. So I really wanted this attention while we were transitioning. He let her know they would talk about it when he picked her up, but she kept texting. I don't know. Even typing all of this out, it sounds like I know my answer. This isn't working out for me right now. He really is a fantastic guy, and our connection is the strongest I've felt in my entire life. Things are great with just the two of us. So I'm wondering if anyone has been through similar with their metamour's mental health being unstable, and if it gets better. Are there good boundaries you'd recommend that I consider for myself or requests that I can make of my partner? Yeah, so couples privilege off the top.
Couples privilege,
Hinge privilege,
boundaries. This is a juicy one, yeah.
Because it's one of those things where with mental health, you feel like you need to give everyone a little bit more grace. But if this weren't her mental health causing the issue, I feel like it would have become a bigger problem quicker because this meta wouldn't have been so understanding. Like if this metamour was like, oh, my car's breaking down constantly, and that's why, you know, I can't let you go see your partner. I can't yada, yada, yada. I feel like they'd be a lot less understanding, like more quickly than they are right now.
Well, we have this, and it's kind of sweet. It is the human nature to want to extend compassion to each other. And it is, especially now that there is a lot more awareness, there is a lot more conversations around mental health, but there's not a full consensus. We are still nervous about it. And so I do think we potentially tread too carefully sometimes.
And I feel bad for OP in this because what sucks is when your nervous system starts to get into the like, something bad is gonna happen. And it seems like every time they've said goodbye lately, it's like chaos over the next couple of days. And when you're activated like that for several days and you tie it back to saying goodbye to your partner, that's gonna make every single time you have to say goodbye to your partner suck from then on. And I feel bad. I can imagine how much just like thinking about them leaving and the chaos. Like,
oh, yeah.
the chaos ensuing.
Yeah, and it sounds or very limited, I should say, pieces around rebuilding a sense of safety, groundedness, calming around that. No aftercare, it sounds.
It seems like the hinge here is getting so drawn in by this whirlwind created by the Metamour that they are kind of neglecting their other partner. From the beginning, asking your partner to take a step back from the relationship to focus on you and not being willing to do the same is not a good look for me.
No, that's... Hey, my situation has gotten intensive. I need a bit of priority to try to help navigate this and balance this. So I am going to ask for a bit more of your attention and of my other partners is a very different piece than you need to step back from your other relationship for me. Completely different flavors, completely different messages in that.
Yeah, and it's not fair for OP to have ever been put in that situation. No. Like, it shouldn't have. I understand, like, when you lose a member of your family, you are going to need more love and support. Sure. But asking for a full break and then having to de-escalate to not staying overnight anymore, it sucks so much.
It does.
And I feel like I would be a little more sympathetic if this was coming from the hinge partner saying, I want to take this time to focus on my partner who's going through a really rough time. I would respect that. I'd be like, fuck yeah, you take the time. Right. I'm going to step back. I'm going to go have a corn dog over here. Have a great time, y'all.
But no, but what we get is she continues to see her partners, she is frequently wavering in her commitment to my partner being polyamorous.
Yes, exactly.
Which also I think raises the question, the piece around, are things great when it's just the two of y'all? Because this is him. This is where he is not balancing, prioritizing in ways that are helpful for whatever that is him. Because he is allowing this to bleed through in such significant ways.
Yeah, and like, how will she feel if she ever wants, like, how will OP feel if OP is eventually asking this hinge, hey, can you focus on me for a bit? Is the hinge then going to go make them the bad guy to Metamour? It seems like the hinge is not wanting to take responsibility for what's going on and what's happening and putting it off onto, oh, it's because my partner's doing this. It's because my partner's doing that. The OP says that they were having a date and everything was fine until the Metamour started blowing up the OP's phone with plans for afterwards. And it's just...
You can mute your phone.
Exactly.
You can even set Do Not Disturb for a specific set of time, I think, at this point.
Yeah. I have my phone set to go to Do Not Disturb if I flip it on its face. So, like, when I put my phone face down in defense mode and tell people to buzz off for a bit. They're wondering if someone's been through something similar with their mental health of the meta being really unstable and if it gets better. I've found it only gets better if the people are willing to actually address the issue instead of continuing to do these like half-ass Pokemon bandages over the problems, And it doesn't super seem like that is what's going on. It seems like OP wants to improve the situation. The hinge just wants to avoid conflict, and the Metamour doesn't know how to look beyond themselves and their own desires right now.
Right. And to an extent that may be when we're in the thick of it, especially when you add the layers of grief, mental health, meds, it can be really hard to be able to look externally because there's just so much at play and in these pieces. But I think you're right. What is getting addressed is the response and the reactions that folks are having at best, or conflict avoidance at worst, depending. And not actually looking at, okay, what are folks' needs for feeling safe, feeling cared about, feeling connected? How do we prioritize those around the areas that folks are hurting and are wounded?
And
that-
also, I feel like I feel like the Metamour is not asking enough of their other partner. I just realized they have another partner. Why can't they also seek this support from the other partner and give Hinge a chance to spend some time with OP? But sorry, back to your thing.
No, it's a fair piece. It's, again, what does safety, comfort, connectivity look like? Those kinds of questions, I think, would lead to really different responses in this. In how do we balance where time is spent, who's got what kind of focus and attention? All of that would be a lot more centralized if the focus was around those core relational pieces rather than the symptoms of what is going on around the relationship.
Yeah, instead of, hey, partner, we need to have some talks about how you're handling things, it's okay, like, I guess I won't stay overnight for a while, or they won't stay overnight for a while.
Right.
Or,
And it sounds in this, a lot of the intentions are good. The Hinge is trying to, it sounds to an extent, meet everyone's needs in this. Maybe more conflict avoidant than may actually be helpful, but that is the nature of the beast, it seems. Those aren't malintent. It sounds the Metamour is not necessarily malicious, just grieving and hurting. And it sounds the OP is trying to show up as caringly and compassionately for both the Hinge, for their meta. There's not necessarily villainy in any of this, but it is all of these good intentions that are causing folks a lot more strife.
yeah. And going back to if I've ever dealt with a meta's mental health being unstable, I have dated a lot of people with various personality disorders, and us mentally ill folk tend to travel in schools of very shiny little fishies. So my metamours have often had various mental health issues, and I have found that the amount to which these mental health issues impacted my life and my relationship wholly depended on the Hinge. So that's why I'm being pretty hard on the Hinge. Is personal experience is, if you have a good Hinge, that mental health stuff isn't going to leak over onto you. But with a bad Hinge, you get, and in this situation specifically, the Hinge partner turning it on like we're doing this because of the wife, because of the Metamour, and making them into the enemy in this situation.
Right. No accountability for themselves in it.
Yeah. Are they also telling the same story to their friends? Of course, our friends are going to want to protect us and stuff like that too, but our friends are going to be a little bit more unbiased most of the time. Our friends are going to be a little bit more, it's going to be less messy, So go talk about, hey, my wife is asking so much of me. It's exhausting me. I don't know how to balance this. Tell that to your friend, not your other partner.
Yeah. There needs to be, it sounds, a broader level of support for, frankly, everyone involved, and a higher degree of accountability brought into the conversation of who is actually taking responsibility for which pieces of this.
Okay. Do you want to summarize anything? Because we spent a lot of time talking about this one. I feel like I repeated myself like 8 times before we move on to the next one. Sorry, Sloan.
No, I think we hit a lot of it. At least once we hit all of it.
To death. But this is why I structure the episode the way I do. I give some long stories and I give a couple shorter ones, and then we get some long ones. And anyway, so next story. My Metamour's mental health is affecting my relationship. I have been in a poly relationship with Tony M for over a year now. I know, we're going to get on the MF again.
Yep.
This motherfucker. All right, so Tony's nesting partner of 10 years, Sarah F., has bipolar, and I'm finding it difficult to deal with in a way that's sensitive to her and ensures mine and Tony's needs are being met. She's going to therapy about it, but not on meds, which I totally respect. We were all new to poly life when we started dating, but I did a lot of research into how to make things work, whereas they just kind of went with the flow. This meant some boundaries were breached early on that brought out some of her insecurities, but we've mostly worked through that. At first, she was dating a lot, so he would schedule dates with me whenever she had a date so that his mind wasn't going wild wondering what she was up to. Always a great sign. Lovely. It always felt a little off because it hardly ever went the other way around, i.e. he wouldn't schedule first because he always worried about upsetting her. This makes me feel ashamed, like I'm some sort of homewrecker. And he recently let slip that's how his mom sees me. Oof.
We're going to pop a couple of flags in that.
Yep. To him, the fact that I'm also seeing other people should lessen how badly I feel about this situation. And
What?
that's not how that works.
Mm?
Sarah went through an especially rough patch with her mental health recently. She stopped dating other people. So that unspoken scheduling rule went out the window, and I really enjoyed being able to make more concrete plans with Tony. But now that she's dating again and things are back to how they were before. Ew.
Yep. There's a lot of story in that little sentence alone.
She had a date planned for this weekend that fell through, so he canceled our date too. No. Anyway, sorry. She didn't ask him to, but he felt it would be best for her mental health. I had no say in it. I understand he's stuck in a hard place right now trying to make both of us happy and keep the peace, but I do feel like I'm the one who always draws the short straw.
Sounds it.
He and I are wanting to go to an overseas musical festival later this year, and the way he sees it, this means we should appease her by spending less time together so that she's more likely to be on board with it. My worry is that we'll do that and she'll still veto the trip.
Hey, no.
No. From my perspective, I think it would benefit her to build some resilience and learn how to cope with him being out with me while she's alone. And the only alternative I can see is I keep feeling undervalued and building resentment towards her. I'd love to hear from others who've experienced the mental health issues within a relationship. I have chronic depression, which is currently managed, so I do have some insight on mental health in general, but no experience with bipolar. Are he and I being doormats, or is there a way that we can stand up for our needs while also being mindful of hers? I'm going to let you go first, because you're probably going to say all the things I want to say better.
Oh, I have so many
ahead.
things to say. This is a shit show.
Yeah.
It's the technical
Couple
term.
opening up their relationship, also with a person who is also new to polyamory. This can only go well.
So many pieces in this. The fact that I'm also seeing other people should lessen how badly I feel about this situation. What kind of math is this? I do math for fun, which, again, the nerd thing. I don't know this math.
Yeah, no. On that point, it sounds like she wants him to be like more of a primary, and he's seeing himself as like her tertiary partners. I have my primary. I'm not trying to be your primary, but they're not willing to say that out loud.
Oh, yeah. The sacrifice of one person's sense of security for another's does speak to priority. Regardless of what they're saying, how they're doing it, he's clearly prioritizing his other partner.
Yeah, and I feel like this is yet another one where the Hinge is fucking this up, because this is causing OP to have resentment towards Sarah.
Oh, yeah. I don't think it's he and the OP are doormats. I don't actually think it is necessarily even, hey, his nesting partner Sarah has bipolar. This just sounds like he's fucking up.
Yeah, it does. Like, I understand your parents might be from a different generation and calling her a homewrecker and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that to my partner, because where's the benefit there? It just sets someone up for insecurity and to feel bad, and like me to argue with my parents because I'm like, they're not a fucking homewrecker, and if you say that again, I'm not coming to Thanksgiving. But the big issue, backing it up, whenever she was going out on dates, he only schedules dates when she's going out.
That
is such a fucking problem.
Wild red flag.
That's the point at which, honestly, I would have been out. Like, if they're both going out on dates, I understand their time to potentially be together is lessened. But I feel that instead of planning things for the same night so that the rest of their time is still together, they should be setting aside, Tony and Sarah should be setting aside meaningful time. Right. So that the rest of their time can be their own. Because right now they're treating it like time where they're with other partners is just vacation time, and the rest of the time they're together as, you know, like the standard, which I can get. They're enmeshed. They haven't done enough work to break their enmeshment, and I get that. They may not want to, but they need to be conveying that better.
Yeah, no. You gotta do your digging. It's also the bit that shits me in this. I don't know if any of this is actually what Sarah's asked for. This very well could be this Hinge just infantilizing Sarah for her mental illness.
Sarah asked you to manage these boundaries for her, Tony?
Yeah, that's kind of... Listen, that may not be fair to Tony, but it's got those vibes.
Yeah, maybe a little white knight. Oh, she's only okay when I'm with her.
He felt that it would be best for her mental health. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand wanting to be considerate of your partner's feelings and stuff like that, but planning a date with your partner in your free time shouldn't be something that's so upsetting to your partner that you're worried about even talking about it, because that is such a block for communication.
Right, which creates terrible communication. It infantilizes. It doesn't actually create a real sense of relational security for anyone, and in fact actively makes it worse for at least OP.
So This is not a case of either of y'all being doormats. He is the door hinge, and he is creaky. He is weak. He needs to get tightened screws. He needs some
A
work.
good oil, some,
Yeah.
spit shine. Like
you are willing to do, OP's willing to do the work, research how to make things work. Tony and Sarah seem like they're just kind of like rolling downhill together.
Yeah. Also, my worry is we'll do all that and she'll still veto the trip. That's such a flag. Because
Yeah,
actually,
spending less time together to make her be more on board with it's icky. It feels manipulative.
right.
I don't like it. You're trying to do these things to get her to react in a way that you want. Like, you can set yourself up for success without being so slimy.
It's also, as I'm thinking back through this, correct me if I'm wrong, was there any place where it was explicitly coming from Sarah, or was it all the hinge communicating Sarah's wants, needs? Because, I don't know, that part sits odd.
Yeah. She says it's an unspoken scheduling rule. Like, how unspoken? For real, though. Have you and Tony talked about it? Have Tony and Sarah talked about it? Is everything in your relationship unspoken?
Right. I was just about, like, who is talking? To whom? About what?
Yeah. It seems like there's an awful lot of managing boundaries that aren't our own boundaries instead of respecting boundaries. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's everybody's job in this relationship to have their own boundaries and respect each other's. Right now, they're trying to have each other's boundaries and respect who? Who are they respecting? Not themselves, not each other, not the relationship.
The illusion of comfort.
Yeah. Not to be too harsh, but God damn it. OP seems like they're trying, and
is doing
Tony
some of the
is
work.
definitely letting shit break down.
Yeah.
I don't know about Sarah. It's very clear that OP resents Sarah for all of this, but how much of this is actually Sarah and how much of this is Tony?
Yeah.
Bing, bang, boom, bomb. You got anything else before we move on to the next one?
No, that's it. That's delicious.
All right, cool. So this one says, vetoed over the health of a meta. I was in a close triad with Sam and Jess, who were nesting partners. I broke up with Jess due to her toxic behavior and continued my relationship with Sam. Jess forced herself to be okay with this for a while, to my knowledge. Sam says he would fight for me in their arguments. But today I got broken up with by Sam because Jess was talking about hurting herself if our relationship kept continuing. The amount of feelings I have about this it's a lot. And I'm very hurt after being invited into a supposedly safe environment. I had been working on being vulnerable as I had been asked to. I had a feeling one day she would veto me, but I had hoped for the best. Then she breaks up with Sam too today. I'm sure they'll get back together, so whatever. He apologized to me profusely about it, but I don't think I ever want to do polyamory again. I never want to feel controlled by someone's partner again. It hurts so bad. I feel so stupid for dating a couple without knowing red flags. I could have saved myself so much pain. Was this written by me? Was this written by me a couple of years ago as I strangle my microphone stand?
Holy shit.
Yeah.
This is the layers in this. OP, you are not alone. The amount of feelings I have about this is substantial.
Jumping into a triad is hard mode. Anyone that says differently has not fucking been there or got really goddamn lucky. Because managing two relationships on your own and with these two people is hard enough, but then them having their own intimate relationship and their own intimate dynamic that has years on your own.
Oh, yeah.
It gets messy so much more often than anyone wants to say. I fucked up even more than OP did. I will be honest, okay? So here's me and my fuck up. I moved in with the couple.
Oh, damn.
Right at the start of the pandemic. So, yeah, that didn't go well.
I can see that complicating.
It was complicating. Yeah. And so I can really sympathize with OP here. OP is at least smart enough that they didn't move in with them. Good job, OP.
But it's such a rough place. I mean, absolutely, triads are such a hard piece because there's 4 relationships in it. There's you and person A, there's you and person B, there's person A and person B, and then there's the goddamn 3 of you. That's 4 dynamics to manage.
And there's your relationship with yourself.
That's deep, fam.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
No, there are so many layers when these relational dynamics are so closely bound and interconnected with each other.
And the vulnerability.
Yeah. There's a lot of story in the sentence of, I broke up with Jess due to her toxic behavior. That feels so complicated again in a triad situation. Jess forced herself to be okay with this for a while. There's so much in that. What was the communication around that? What did that look like with Sam, with Jess, with the OP in those 4 communication or 4 relationship dynamics? How is communication happening in those?
I have never had an OP give me less information when I want so much. Usually OPs give me too much information. OP, give me more.
It's also, as an aside, because it does need to be talked about in this, Sam and Jess and the talking about hurting herself if a relationship kept continuing. That's manipulation. Intentionally, otherwise, because there are places where if someone's mental health is really in a rough place, where they're really reactive, they're really volatile, but the use of threats to self to create or enact a result that you're looking for is a manipulation tactic.
Mm-hmm.
That was a huge red flag. And candidly, red flag to Sam with, if you believed it enough to break up with OP, why are you not taking steps to ensure Jess's safety and mental health? Why aren't you looking at things like calling crisis? Do they need a stay and inpatient, in respite?
I am very slow to 5150 people, but if you are taking this seriously enough to break up with someone, maybe it needs to go that
absolutely
exactly like you're saying.
There's a whole lot with it, and there's so much, and they can be so deeply traumatizing. I'm so aware of and so cautious of that in it. But if there is enough legitimate concern, if you take it seriously, you have an ethical responsibility to do something about that. And it sounds Sam did not do anything about the actual sort of root piece and just went with, okay, well, this will stop that behavior.
You put a Pokémon Bandit on the problem.
Yup. Wild.
So I do think that there's a chance Jess might be in some serious crisis, because she did, break up with Sam too. And I've noticed a lot of people will go through these phases where they will just break up with everyone, burn everything down in their life, and it gets scary.
Yeah.
Sure, they might get back together and stuff like that, but it does seem like Jess is going through something, and she might need more care than you just saying, okay, I won't date her anymore. That'll fix things. No.
Right. Either one, Jess is in a really bad space, in a really bad way, needs help. Or 2, Jess is engaging in some fairly manipulative behavior, and or some combination therein. It does raise the question as well for me about OP's comment about due to her toxic behavior. And I'm aware to an extent there's an unreliable narrator aspect to this. No offense, OP.
So, to once again tell on myself, when I was in this situation, when I was in OP's situation, my version of Jess broke up with me one day when I did not return the vulnerability that she offered me. For context, she offered me this vulnerability when I was trapped in a car with her, and it was vulnerability about a subject she knew was very triggering for me. So of course I didn't open up to her, but it's not what she wanted from that.
Also, in that case, is that vulnerability, or is that, who's to say?
Toxic behavior, I fucking get. Like I said, I see way too much of what I've been through in this, and what I want to say to OP here is, please, if you think that polyamory might be fulfilling to you, don't give up because of these people.
Yeah,
you
this is not
are going to date so many awful people being monogamous, and you're not going to stop being monogamous just because they're awful people. You know what I mean? If you feel fulfilled by the polyamorous relationship style, don't give up on that part of yourself, and don't be too hard on yourself for not knowing that dating a couple can be really fucking hard and that there's red flags associated with it.
Right. It sucks that it got learned in this way, but...
It does. It fucking sucks and it hurts. But if you are completely cutting yourself off from polyamory, that's, cutting off a whole source of potential happiness for you. Just because of these 2 people. Don't let these 2 people win. Don't let them break this thing that could be so beautiful for you.
Yeah.
I've dated a lot of couples and it hasn't gone well, but I still find myself being attracted to couples, and now I just say maybe not. Lawless, maybe not. Because I've found that I'm actually just attracted. What I'm actually attracted to is the strength of the bond, because I've found I'm mostly attracted to people who have been together for like 10, 15 years or so, because I find that security and that stability very appealing. and it's caused me to overlook a lot of red flags. Anyway.
Duration is not necessarily a one-to-one on healthy.
Anything else you want to say about this one before we move on to the next one?
No, although, goddamn, hello, Potato.
Potato.
Yes, he has decided that the chords are worth playing with.
This is our cat break, as is typically scheduled.
There we go.
It's just not Sloane's cat this time.
I'm glad to know that at least there's a precedent set.
Sloane's going to make the cat cut of our other podcast where it's just all the times cats interrupted scenes. Okay.
I love it.
This next story is one of those things that I feel probably too many of us have wondered late at night and then just never said out loud to anyone. At least maybe just me. Just me? That's okay. How to know whether I'm poly or just mentally ill. Okay. Me, non-binary 25, and my partner of 6 years, M25, recently started opening up our relationship. It's been almost 2 months, and there's been so many ups and downs. Honestly, every single day has been some variation of hard and new, and we figure out boundaries with other people and how to rework our relationship. There is a lot of reassurance from him to me about me being the love of his life and that he just wants to meet new people and see what kind of interesting connections he can make. Sometimes I'm fine and even really happy that he's so excited about meeting new people. But sometimes my anxiety is so overwhelming and bad. I get triggered over him nonstop texting a new interest. I get physically ill during panic attacks. I start to break out in stress hives. It is almost laughable how every day for the last month I've had stress hives. I'm trying really hard as I don't have a supportive group of friends who are understanding about us being poly. A lot of people think this is just a stepping stone of us breaking up. Oof. One of the things I really need from him is to date me again while pursuing things with others. He is autistic and consistently tells me he has a hard time being romantic with me, which for the last 6 years I've been okay with and have accepted. However, it's hard to see him flirt, plan, and want to go on dates with new people when for years I've sidelined my desire for that because he says it's hard for him. When I talk to him about it, he says, okay, I'll take you on more dates. Yesterday was supposed to be our first dinner date in a really long time, and he told me he was going to take me out and we were going to have the night to ourselves. Except when he comes home from work, he tells me he's going to go on a boba date to meet the new person he's talking to. It really crushed me. I was so upset and immediately started to break down crying because I was like, why can't we just have a date to ourselves romantically? Our whole relationship has changed and it's so hard to deal with it. I don't like the idea of us having a night to ourselves and suddenly it's day of and, oh, by the way, I have a date with someone else right before our date. I'm having a really hard time accepting our poly relationship. Everything feels so different and new and I can't tell if it's legitimate. I can't do this versus I just need to get my anxiety disorder checked. We talked extensively about it yesterday, and when I said, I don't know if this is right for me, for us, or whether or not we're compatible, he snapped and said, you know what? You're right. Oh, God. He snapped and said, you know what? You're right. You can't handle this. We're stopping this immediately. I don't want us to ever talk about this. I'm deleting every phone number. I feel like killing myself. This is torture. I feel miserable that we keep talking about this. I can understand you not being able to handle this, but I can't deal with you not giving me a clear ultimatum or just clear boundaries on what you can handle or not handle.
Hey, none of that
was hard to hear.
Yeah, none of that was good. Or healthy.
Yeah, no. I shut down. I have repeatedly stated to him that I'm trying really hard to work through my monogamous thinking and of not being good enough for him. I'm working on my attachment issues and I'm constantly in this subreddit looking for guidance and resources. I'm putting in the work. I feel so guilty for not being as good at this or as fast as he wants me to be. I have such a bad mental illness that we both acknowledge, and it is being really heightened by opening up our relationship. Once he apologizes to me after snapping like that, we agree my mental health is suffering and that he realizes that he's being unfair for me giving him shit for not working through things fast enough, even though I really am working hard. I agreed to see a psychiatrist and to be back on anti-anxiety meds. We talked about the fact that opening up our relationship at this current time is not ideal. I asked him if we could full stop everything right now and focus on strengthening our relationship a bit more. for my mental health. He said he didn't want to do that, which I acknowledge is fair and understandable. I told him we really need to decide whether or not we're compatible enough to do this, and that if being poly and being able to see other people was important to him right now, then we should break up. I don't want to infringe on his freedom. I told him that if he thinks I'm being unreasonable or selfish, it's okay for us to part ways. I told him that I do need to get my anxiety or disorder under control first so that we can try again, because I do want to try this and I think it'll be beneficial for both of us. But right now I'm having severe panic and anxiety attacks, and it's affecting all aspects of my life, and that's being worsened by this. I was very clear and said he doesn't owe me anything and doesn't need to be with me, and if he doesn't want to, he doesn't have to. I was very honest and said, clearly I'm mentally unwell and this isn't helping. I think I need to remove myself and work on getting better. I don't think he initially understood how scared and broken I feel over my mental health and physical health. I was like, sick. Can you not see how much the stress and anxiety has been doing this to my body? He agreed and said that it does make sense, and then he changed his tune and said that it's important for me to get better. He said it's not that deep. Shush. And he loves and supports me, and that he knows I'm trying really hard, and that my anxiety needs to be medically addressed. I'm just really worried that maybe I'm monogamous and maybe he's poly and that it's never going to work even if my medication gets treated for my anxiety. I've given him multiple outs and I've stated clearly that we're just maybe not compatible and our relationship has run its course, but he doesn't want to break up with me. And he said he doesn't ever want to. So I feel guilty and selfish, and I don't know if I'm doing this right at all. Holy shit, OP, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, this is a bloody whirlwind. There are two pieces and they are playing messily, at least. Because, yeah, anxiety disorders are really rough and really hard, and especially if it is severe enough to have the levels of physical symptoms it's showing, that's a real piece, and that does need real care. And credit to OP for saying, hey, no matter what you're doing and what we're doing, I need to take care of myself. That's delicious. And it sounds that
so, like,
there's not a lot in that the OP is necessarily getting back in terms of support, consideration. It is just getting either, well, don't talk about it, it's fine, I'm going to continue to sort of do what I want, or, oh no, we'll absolutely do it. It just, the back and forth and the black and whiteness of it.
OP did mention that their partner is autistic, and so like the black and white thinking of we're either fully in this or we're not going to do it, and I'm not going to talk to anyone, I'm going to delete their numbers and blah, blah, blah. There's the extremes there, and I can totally understand that as an autistic person, but it's something that needs to be checked, honestly. It's something that OP's partner needs to be like a little more like, oh wow, that was a very intense reaction to this conversation. Maybe, no. He said, I feel like killing myself. This is torture. Like, that goes from like intensity of no to like, then it goes into manipulating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Black and white is absolutely a piece that folks can have, especially with neurodivergence, and that makes sense as a first response to an extent, especially with all these pieces. And it cannot be the landing point, because polyamory really does require such a level of nuance and communication and space for there to be movement and shift in that. And the all or nothing approach really does not do well in mixing with polyamory.
So I'm going to try to read outside the lines a little bit on this, because they are both 25. They've been together for 6 years. So it sounds like a couple that got together at like the start of college.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, okay.
And so like they're at very big change points in both of their lives. Both of them are mentally, I would like to know what started them talking about opening their relationship, who brought it up, why they brought it up, because I do feel like maybe this might be a step towards them breaking up. And it's, as much as I hate to say that sometimes people opening up their relationship is the step before breaking up, but I do feel like a lot of these long-term relationships that get opened up and just go so full hog into things are people who are looking to find what they want next, but don't want to leave what's currently comfortable, like what they know. They don't want to jump out into the dating pool without having their little floaties, their little water wings.
Right. speaking neurodivergence, my own ADHD ass, I get going a little too hard too fast, but then the important piece is going, okay, wait, hold on, let me slow down, let me pause for a second, let me look at this before I'm down. I may have jumped in, it may be a little extreme. Let me reassess my pacing.
Yeah, and I feel for OP because OP has said that their love language is that they want more dates and that they've suppressed this desire to have more dates. But then their partner goes and literally plans a boba date right before their date. Like, it feels disrespectful. It feels like they're treating dates with their long-term partner as more of a formality than what OP wants is to be dated again, to be pursued, and to be shown this interest that they're showing in other people. And if you're not willing to shore up the relationship that you have before venturing out, maybe it's better for you to just end that relationship, because every relationship you're going to be in is going to be worthy of the amount of attention that you're willing to give it for the whole length of it. It's not, oh, we've been together for 5 years, so I can stop putting in effort now, just chill out and do my own thing. That's not how this shit works. Like, if you want to be with someone, I feel you should be looking for opportunities to show them you want to be with them whenever you can, Like, even when I'm doing things and dating and excited or whatever to do things with my other partners, I still love opportunities to show my long-term partner that I love them, that I want them in my life, that I want them close to me.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how much it hurts for OP to be feeling so cast aside.
But what a painful piece.
And they're being so introspective about it.
Yeah. I guess what's sort of the theme of relational safety and connection, and where those pieces have taken a blow, and it sounds the OP is going, hey, I'm hurting at the loss of these and the damage to these. Can we please work on some repair for this? It is a priority to me and is not getting that back necessarily.
And it sucks. It really does. Like, kind of like, the comfort fallacy, and then like the sunk cost fallacy of him not being willing to kind of go out on his own. Like, oh my God, my fucking floaties, I can't swim.
Right, but people can't be your transitional objects.
No, people deserve to be more than a transitional object.
Yeah.
If you cared about this person at any point, OP's partner, the least they fucking deserve is for you to show them that you care. I understand going on dates is hard and stuff like that, but if you're willing to do it for someone that you haven't known for 6 years, ask yourself why you're not willing to do it for the person you've known for 6 years. What is that blocker that is keeping you from showing this level of effort and time for someone that you say you care about enough to be with for fucking 6 years?
Yeah.
I have opinions.
You and me both. I mean, talking about black and white in that, is this relationship one that you are willing to equally prioritize? Not over prioritize, but equally prioritize. Are you willing to put in the effort and consideration to the relationship you have? That is a yes or no question that holds a lot of value.
Yeah, like, you're not being successful in polyamory if you have 8 partners, but all of them are unhappy. Polyamory isn't Pokemon. It's not going out and collecting. I talk about Pokemon too much. You can tell I have a thing.
I get it. There is the gotta catch 'em all mentality that can happen, and can happen with some frequency in the early days of polyamory when, oh my God, it's suddenly there are so many things and so many people, and I've got to experience it all and I've got to be in it all. And
especially once you bring in that neurodivergent need for sensory seeking, for experience, and serotonin and dopamine and all of that seeking that we tend to do.
And again, this is where taking some of that balance, taking some of that thought, that care, that time becomes so important, and really hearing what your partner or partners are telling you. There's no relational success without relational security.
Yeah. OP says that every single day has been some variation of hard, and that is going to be polyamory, especially when you're new to it, and especially when you have any kind of trauma or neurodivergence. But what makes it worth it is that those hard times have such bright edges.
Yeah.
Those times where you're struggling up a ladder, you get to have this glorious vista view at the top of that ladder. But if you're climbing up a ladder into the bottom of someone's toilet, of course it may not feel right for you. And it's not because you're a turd. You're just in the wrong place.
I think that's the other piece in this. There is one's mental health, and the fact that there are these pieces that are not working is not an indication that polyamory is not necessarily for you. Now, that maybe people have a range of relational dynamics, styles, and preferences, but this is not it's not a one-to-one of, oh, I'm having a hard time with it, so it's not for me. It is inherently hard. Being a human in connection with people is hard. That doesn't mean you're not supposed to or not able to do it.
Yeah, just gotta be worth it in the end, hopefully, you know? And I understand you've been with this person for 6 years, but you're 25. You've got so much life ahead of you, and you could be with someone that makes you so much happier and takes you on all the fun and exciting dates you want to. You could have 3, 4, 5 people that take you on all the dates you want to, but not while all your energy and all of your effort is being put into constantly second guessing yourself and your mental health because of this one person's douchiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's douchey as hell to be out there tracing skirts when you don't even keep the people you got at home happy. It's douchey. Fucking hell. Okay. Anything else about this one before I move on? Because, yeah. Wow. I could talk about that one for too long. But, yeah. OP, you might be mentally unwell, but you know what? That doesn't mean you can't be polyamorous. It just means you got to put in a little bit more work than most people, and polyamory is already hard. So if it's worth it to you, it's worth the work.
And it's worth finding the partners that will show up in the work alongside you.
Nope. Okay.
Sorry, yes.
So.
Yes.
All right, so for our closer, our palate cleanser, I like to get a story that is already updated and tied up or resolved, or it's just really wholesome and adorable because so many of these shows end on so many cliffhangers. I don't want to do that to y'all. It doesn't sound fun. So our story today comes from Best of Redditor Updates. I have been reminded that I should probably be clear when I'm not coming from a polyamorous subreddit. My 42M wife, 41F, of 18 years has numerous health and mental conditions that prevent most sexual activities. Recently, she told me it would be okay if I found a sexual partner to meet my sexual needs. I'm not sure what to do. This was originally posted a long time ago. I couldn't even fucking find the original post. That's how long ago it was. So thank you, Best of Redditor Updates. So we're a fairly classic couple where we have very different libidos. Mine's been high and hers was a bit lower until about 10 years ago. Over the past 10 years, she's been diagnosed with multiple health conditions. I don't want to list them all, but needless to say, it deeply affects her standard of living and puts me in the role of caregiver. I love my wife. When we first got married, none of these health conditions were present. But if they had been, I still would have married my wife. My only real concern has been the reduction in our sex lives. Over the past 2 years, it's been really noticeable with sex occurring once, maybe every couple of months, with gaps as long as 6 months. I know my needs aren't being well met, and I struggle greatly to even accept that my sexual needs are important in the face of what she goes through every day. To be clear, she's a hero in my eyes. She faces all of her health struggles with so much strength. Even when she falters and has a bad day, she picks herself back up and faces the next day. I feel so guilty about wanting sex when she's clearly struggling with so much more. About a week ago, she mentioned that she knows I stay up late so that I can diddle myself after she goes to bed, and that she knows I want more sex. She told me that she feels guilty she can't provide the level of sexual activity I desire, and that after taking care of her for so many years, I deserve to have those needs met. She ended up saying that I could try to find a sexual partner to fill my needs, but the huge caveat is that she doesn't want to know anything about it. This isn't completely out of nowhere. Many years ago, before her illness, we were a pretty experimental couple for sex. While the drive was lower for her, she was still adventurous. We had a few group sex activities, and she struggled with some feelings of jealousy. But we worked through them and eventually had a few positive encounters with multiple people. She says that she knows after everything we've gone through that I'm loyal to her, but she's willing to give me the ability to find a sexual partner for meeting my needs. I don't know how I feel about it, especially given the jealousy situation from many years ago. I am really confused, and I have no ethical problem with open relationships, but I am worried this would backfire on me. I also am worried that I simply wouldn't be able to find a partner since I have no idea how to look after being with someone for nearly 20 years. Truthfully, I'd love to be able to have sex with someone, and I don't link sex with love and romance. But how do I even do that if I wanted to? What does Reddit think? Before we get into the update, do you have thoughts? Because Already, I'm just like, these guys are doing so much thought. This guy's so considerate. What a decent dude.
I mean, these are the kinds of questions and conversations that I would hope to see. There is a lot of consideration of each other's comfort, of each other's relational safety, of how to make sure that their dynamic is strong, secure, stable, as they are looking at other things that may be on the table. This seems a really healthy conversation, a really nuanced one, a potentially messy one, but a really good conversation that's being had.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the way that Christian values and beliefs and stuff like that have so pervaded our culture
Oh my
that
God.
it is seen to be more morally good to not need, oh, I don't even need sex. Oh, I don't even need sex. It's seen as mature and all these things, but like, it's a need. It's totally valid for it to be a fucking need for people.
Absolutely.
Like, it sounds kind of like a bit of that religious guilt eking into his feelings just a little bit. And yes, she's struggling with things every single day, but you're going through shit too. You're a caregiver when you did not sign up to be a caregiver, and that's hard, but you're doing it. And so rough to be put in a caregiver situation. So already I have kudos for him for sticking around, and then for still seeing her as a hero and like someone that he is so impressed by, rather than it becoming this like infantilizing relationship.
Yeah. No, it's beautiful to see. It's also, there's no need for the suffering Olympics of it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that he said even if these health conditions would have been present and he would have still married his wife, that's good to think about, because there are so many people who are like, well, if I would have known, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And it's so sad when people get like cancer and stuff like that and their partners leave them or stop viewing them as a partner and view them as a dependent. It sucks. And
Yeah.
it takes so much of the equality out of the relationship.
Yeah. In all of this, the ability to keep the nuance and the humanity of each other in mind, so delicious.
Yeah. Okay. Getting on to the update, because yeah, I appreciate that he's aware enough that there could be like jealousy issues. He's introspective enough to know we've had some experience in the past. We've worked through things. Like, all of that is good insight to have. And I'm glad they're having this conversation. I'm excited that there's an update. You got anything else before I go?
No, I want the update too. What do we got?
Yeah. All right. OP says, about 2 weeks ago, I posted that my sick wife had brought up the subject of finding someone outside our relationship for me to have sex with. I got a lot of feedback on the post, got several terrible names. But in the end, I had a long conversation with my wife, checkmark. And we also spoke to our therapist about it.
Yeah.
Sex is not normally a topic at therapy, but it was in this case.
Interesting.
Turns out my wife's best friend actually brought up the idea and mentioned being willing to help. They had a long conversation about it when her friend came over one day while I was working. My wife talked about how she wished I could still enjoy that part of my life despite her illness, and her friend mentioned being willing to act as a sexual partner. Her friend is historically polyamorous and currently not with a partner. Many, many years ago, over 8, we had a very positive group sex encounter with her and one of her partners at the time. They apparently have been talking about it quite a bit over several weeks, and my wife is comfortable with the idea and feels more comfortable with it, assuming the person is her friend. When I asked her about the don't ask, don't tell, my wife mentioned she's okay knowing that it's going on in the background. She just doesn't want to see or hear it. She essentially doesn't want to know any details. She doesn't want to feel being compared to, and she's okay if I find someone other than her friend, but really wants the trust level to be similar.
Damn, okay.
I did talk about a professional sex worker, and she was okay with it, but did have the issue of potential cost.
Love that was the only issue.
Right! Gold star, gold star, gold star. So in the end, she said we should talk to her friend about what things might look like. I don't mind her friend, and certainly we had fun many years ago in that one group sex encounter. Her friend actually helped me take care of my wife a few years ago. I hurt my back, and her friend came over to help bathe my wife. I trust her almost as much as my wife. She definitely would never hurt my wife and is one of those friends that you consider family. Her friend and I get along very well, and honestly, it might work. Our therapist recommended we do some reading on polyamory, as well as recommended a few books.
Nice.
The therapist brought up the idea of developing feelings for this other partner. And my wife, for the first time, mentioned she is okay with some romantic feels, but wants to be informed as soon as they develop.
Okay.
The therapist agreed it's a unique situation and was pretty supportive. Our next step is me having a conversation with her friend one-on-one and then deciding if we are going through with this. Life is strange, people. I low-key love that this one came about because the wife was talking to a friend about it, and like it came across that way instead of the husband was talking to someone already. And because we see that so often,
yeah.
you know, like somebody will already have something set up and waiting in the wings, and usually it's not the person that is doing the setting up that is not getting to reap the reward. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the wording on that was really funky, but you get me?
I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm smelling what you're stepping in.
I like that they have so much trust in the friend too.
Yeah. And so beautiful the way that all of this emerged out of consideration for each other.
Mm-hmm. And long conversations.
God, we love to see it.
Long conversations about uncomfortable things for the betterment of the relationship. Fuck yeah. And it's good that the friend is experienced. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This doesn't read to me as like a potential cowgirl situation where like the friend wants to hop onto the husband and snatch him. You know, it sounds like the friend is genuinely just very sex positive and wants to help her friend's relationship. And, you know, it sounds like the friend probably like adores and respects the husband too. Like, this sounds like one of those times where people accidentally stumble into something great, and it's all because of like the time they put into it in the long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So many people hope for this, and they'll meet someone in 1 week and hope that they can form a perfect triad the next week. But this has been like years of friendship and trust and security that they've gotten to build before ever bringing more sex into it.
Yeah. It's so beautiful how it sounds naturally and organically this all formed, and the layers and levels of mutuality and consideration that went into each piece.
Mm-hmm. I am so fucking here for it. And I do appreciate the wife. You know, if you want to see someone other than a friend, you're welcome to that. But we want to have the level of trust. Here for that. Fuck yeah. And I think the reason she wants to be informed as soon as any potential romantic feelings develop is so that she can talk about it in therapy.
Yeah.
I feel like that she has good intentions with that. Like, normally I would feel a little sus when someone's like, if you start getting romantic feelings for them, I want to know right away. But this sounds like she's doing it for the right reason.
Right. The like, hey, I want to know so that I can do my work on my end.
Yeah, so that we can have conversations about it, so that I can talk to my therapist, so that this doesn't fester. It seems like this is a couple that is very good at talking about things so they don't fester.
Yeah.
Which is fucking rare and hard to do. They seem like they have pretty compatible communication styles, and it's so fucking bomb to see. I love to see this stuff happen.
Oh, it's great. And the bonus points on positivity around sex workers.
No, because yes, I have such strong feelings, because making sure the sex worker is paid what she deserves, or whoever they are, that they are paid what they deserve, being the only reason, oh, we may not be able to afford it. Fucking hell yeah.
Yeah, you know, best reason to not see a sex worker.
Yeah. But that just gold stars across the board here.
This is
one of those
sweet
situations where I feel like so many people can learn so much.
Like, this is what I want to see in a Hallmark movie.
Yeah. Oh my God, a polyamorous Hallmark movie about some guy getting to bone his wife's friend because they're just all so loving and supportive. Oh my goodness. Here for it.
Yeah, Hallmark. Listen, hit this up.
We can definitely write some interesting stories for you, Hallmark. I promise. Your demographic, don't worry about them.
Yeah, don't worry. Listen, we got the demographic. We'll bring the demographic.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to start cutting us off here. Before we sign off, though, co-host Will, my darling friend, what is your non-monogamy survival tip for the audience? It can be about anything that we've talked about today, or it can just be something that you feel very personally resonates with you. There's no bounds.
I mean, so much of what we talked about, communication, centering relational safety, openness, compassion, consideration, all of those good pieces. The other thing I'll give, just because I am a trauma therapist before I'm anything else, for better and for worse, is think about and care for your nervous system during the process. There's no way that the work is not hard sometimes. But if we're caring for our nervous system as we go, it makes it easier. So much of the relational piece is already the hard parts. We don't need our bodies to add an extra layer.
Seriously, though, understanding when your body's having an intense reaction and removing yourself from the situation so that you're not done further harm is such a hard skill to build.
Oh, yeah. And the ways to, like, listen to your nervous system, listen to our bodies do communicate with us, and they respond before we're aware. They have all of these pieces, and if we're not caring for them as a part of the process, we're going to miss so many elements, and we're going to have so many unnecessary hardships.
Yep. My little tip for my lovely audience is if you are considering sacrificing the relationship security of one of your partnerships in order to pacify the perceived potential feelings of your other partner,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be doing more work as a hinge. Everybody can be a bad hinge. It's super easy to do. It's super easy to accidentally hurt people, but don't take away anyone's autonomy. Let people be involved in decisions that involve them.
Yeah.
If you want to be equal, really consider having more equal conversations instead of folding everything in like origami just because your partner said they might have some bad feelings about it. Talk about them. Talk about your bad feelings. Talk about how to make things easier on everyone. Have open conversations.
Yeah.
You know, my typical advice.
But so important.
All right. I appreciate all of you that joined us today, especially those that stuck through to the second half. If people want to find you, where could they do so? Do you have I don't know, you're pretty quiet on social media and stuff. You got anything?
No, I mean, you can find me in the grocery store sometimes, but that's about it.
Yeah, fair enough. To be fair, I hope to have Will on the show a lot more.
Oh my god, that'd be delightful.
Yeah, if you have questions that you want to ask Will directly, send me an email at metamourpod@gmail.com, and in the subject line, put this episode number, and I'm going to make a list of questions that people ask my co-hosts so that I can bring them back on and have episodes where they're just talking to you instead of these faceless people on Reddit. Because I know Will gives great advice, and I just want to make great use of them and their talent and their skills and their wonderful voice.
I'd love to be back. So yeah, if y'all want to find me here.
Yeah. We hope to see you back for our next episode. We will be releasing episodes every odd Wednesday until we figure out this whole podcasting thing. In the meantime, check out our Beacons page, beacons.ai/metamourpod. This will give you the best ways to stay up to date and find all the fun activities and polls we have planned. You can also follow us on social media and post your stories to our subreddit /metamourpod. If you need some advice on a sticky situation or you just want to brag about how wonderfully polyamory is going for you, send us a story to metamourpod@gmail.com. Subscribe, drop us a 5-star review. Metamour Than You Bargained For is a production of Roll to Finish LLC. I have been your host, Lynn Lawless, and our producer, editor, and all-around badass was Sloan Abbott. We got a audio engineer, Kel Fernandez, and that's all the stuff that I have to say legally. Get out of here. Bye.